Ladies and gentlemen, last panel, but last not least, we have a series of exciting announcements. It's a surprise. We got people coming back. You know the deal. There's some awards to give out and a surprise. So come on back. We'll try to make it short and sweet. It's close to 6. I know we have happy hour pretty soon. And we have two incredible gentlemen who are of global stature. They have traversed the entire world. Silicon Valley, obviously, Jojo. You've heard him already as a judge. He's going to tell you more about his wisdom. And the one and only Mark, the man, the international man, the face of Mr. AWS. Please do ask him when you meet him what AWS stands for. Has a lot of interesting stories to share. But without further ado, these two folks will help us unlock one of the things that we hear most as we walk down these halls, which is how do we grow a global startup, especially from Southeast Asia, especially from Thailand, with all this story of that startups are not ambitious enough, not confident enough, not growing fast enough. That we need to unlock that. We need to learn from the greats. So without further ado, please, gentlemen, share us your wisdom. So we'll start with Jojo, maybe a little bit from. You threw it right back at Mark. So Mark, Amazon is known for. I recently watched the Bezos, the documentary, and a bit of his life, and it has this ton of interesting culture around growth. Share us more about what you've experienced at AWS.
I like how you just kind of pass it over to me, Jojo. It's going to be that type of panel. It's getting punchy at the end of the day. The thing I've learned about creating scale, regardless of whether you are a startup founder just getting off the ground or you're a big global company, there's a key ingredient that tends to get missed in what makes a company great. And what makes a company great, ultimately, it's about the culture. You can have the best product, you can hire the most talented team, and there have been a lot of pitches today that have been quite impressive with people that have lots of credentials, a lot of domain knowledge, great ideas, they got all that early traction, maybe they have some really unique IP around the technology, but ultimately, in order to scale, and whether it's scaling across ASEAN, scaling globally, it always comes down to culture. And that was, I think, the biggest insight that Jeff Bezos had in starting Amazon. It wasn't about creating a company that sells books online. It's ultimately creating a company with individuals aligned to a greater purpose and a way of doing things and engaging with each other. And that is culture. And so if you're not intentional about setting the culture early, you can be missing a key ingredient that's going to allow you to achieve that scale later on.
Wow, deep. Yeah, a lot of cultural nuggets in there. I heard it's really tough. What's the toughest cultural piece that you've experienced in Amazon that is really pushes you to the edge?
I will have to say, I've been at AWS for 2.5 years, and I came out of startups. I had my own startup, and I've been mentoring, advising, investing in startups for well over, close to 15 years now. And I didn't think that I could work in a big company. And what I found really interesting about coming over to AWS is that in many ways, we operate like a startup and we innovate at the speed of a startup. But we're also a really large global company. How do you do that? Well, we have this thing called two pizza teams. And two pizza teams, essentially, the way that we think about it is the largest size that a team should actually ever be in any organization is a team that could be satisfied just with eating 2 pizzas. And so you're thinking about what, maybe 6, maybe 8, maybe if you're really hungry, maybe it's fewer. But the point is that smaller teams are able to get things done quickly. And this was some of the evolution of our thinking at Amazon when we realized that trying to globally scale an e-commerce site on what was essentially a big monolith of code. You think about the thing that powers this global e-commerce site at the scale that it does, that was all one big chunk of a few million lines of code. And it was around, I think, 2002 or 3 that Jeff Bezos essentially sent an infamous memo saying that Amazon will no longer operate in this way. We will decouple, and everything will be communications via very well-documented APIs. That also, in doing so, changed the way that we operate, because now teams would control these services, much smaller services, so they can operate independently and faster without being held back by the rest of the organization or other dependencies. So your question, though, was what frustrates me, if there's anything. The thing is that because we operate so fast and in such a distributed manner, sometimes there's a lot of repetition. So in my role as Global Startup Advocate, I work with teams in Southeast Asia, in Africa, LATAM, the US, all throughout Europe. And I'll see programs and mechanisms that one team does in one region, and another team in another region will try to replicate the same exact thing, but they have no idea that this already existing program has been put together. And yes, it's frustrating to see that, but also it's encouraging because it tells me that we're an organization that lets teams experiment, to try things, to be experimental in order to deliver results. But sometimes the duplication does drive me a bit batty.
Interesting. There you go. That's Amazon for you. Now, Jojo, you've seen it all. Silicon Valley, Southeast Asia. We were talking about companies being sold within your portfolio, the likes of Facebook and Microsoft and whatnot. What do you look for in terms of companies that you would love to fund, love to invite to your programs, that in the perspective of growth?
I guess this is not just for SaaS companies. Although for SaaS companies, it is very important to see some domain expertise in the team, definitely. We would like to have a strong technical team in the team, because SaaS is one of those products where you need alterations on the software very quickly, and you don't want that to be done outside of the team. So I like to ask that question, whether the team, aside from the domain expertise, meaning if you are in shipping, you got people who have had years of experience in the field, so they know the industry very well. But at the same time, a strong technical team that can address any changes in the software or in the product whenever it's necessary. Obviously, you're all looking for all of the other common stuff like large market, a large global market. You want to make sure that it's a real problem. It's not just, you want to make sure that it's a problem that is experienced by 90 out of 100 people versus 0.1 out of 100 people. So you want to make sure that the problem is real and that the global potential of the business is substantial. But essentially, we are early stage investors. So, as you know, the bet is really always, almost always on the team. So we think that we've seen it time and time again. It's not so much the product, The product can always change, it can always pivot, but as long as the team is strong, then you've got a potential of still having a successful company. I always say this story. When we first met PayPal was not PayPal as you see it, as you know it today. You know, for all of you older people like myself, PayPal's solutions first was a wallet between Palm Pilot to Palm Pilot. And I don't know whether you guys even know what a Palm Pilot is, right? But that was how PayPal started. And but they were really a group of young, smart, motivated people. So we did invest in them. So it's the same thing. It's the same experience that we bring to any of our investments, including SaaS ones.
I think both of you touched on this point. Early stage, team's incredible, and there is something around the culture. But I think one of the things that challenge us in Southeast Asia, particularly Thailand, is like we have great teams, we have great culture, but we're not growing fast. Like, in your experience, what are some of the fastest growing teams? What do they do differently from everyone else?
That's a great question, and maybe I will sound biased with this answer, but you know, I've done a lot of businesses in my life. You know, I've probably started 20 businesses all around the world, a lot of them in Europe, and I'm Asian. You know, so a lot of people were always taller than me, bigger than me. Especially in Scandinavia. But and I do know how difficult it is to start a company. So I do have empathy, and I always wished that if there was only something like a plug and play platform, life would have been much easier and maybe even simpler, right? And I guess that would be my recommendation for not just Thai companies, no, but all startups from all around the world. I would start off with really finding the best kind of strategic investors that will come into your company. I mean, I remember when we introduced Sequoia Capital to Dropbox. You know, it was one of probably the best thing that happened to their early startup life, as well as Honey and Customer accepting our first money was also, I think, very helpful for them, because that kind of paved the way with our introduction to PayPal. And that's why Honey got bought by PayPal. And Customer, that's why Customer was bought by Facebook. And both were, $1 billion transactions. And I think, again, I hate to sound biased here, but find the right strategic investor, find the right accelerator that can help you in entering a particular market, whether it's local or international. I am a big fan of having strategic acceleration, and I'm not promoting just plug and play here, but it is important for you to do your homework and research. If you're entering a new market, who is that best local person or entity that can really help you do the strategic partnerships and investments that you'll need in order for you to grow your company?
Deep. Okay, and I think everybody would want to come and talk to you right after this. And yourself, Mark?
I want to emphasize the point you made about strategic investors. And broaden it because it comes down to people in your circle that can help you along the way. Whether it's investors, advisors. Because here's the thing I learned in my own time being a founder and struggling mightily. When you start, you're full of passion and enthusiasm. You're like, yes, we're gonna make it happen. What you don't recognize is that you don't know jack squat. You think you know a lot. And it's this kind of curve that you go through whenever you're trying to acquire any type of new knowledge, where you start off not knowing what you don't know. They call this unconscious incompetence. And it takes a long time to get to a stage where you start to make decisions more intuitively and you make better decisions. And at that point, you get to unconscious competence, where you know to make the right decisions. And how do you get there as a founder? The way you get there as a founder is you make decisions. The fundamental thing I see in teams that aren't able to get from build to scale is that they're not willing to either explore, to learn, to extend, to ask for help, and to fill in the gaps in their knowledge, because the knowledge that you have to start is not the same knowledge that you need to scale. That's a different set of skills. And some people will never be able to be at that level where they can scale the company. That's why you see a lot of founders who at some point in the journey may fire themselves a CEO or CTO or some other C-level founder exec and do something else, because that's a different set of skills. In fact, even at Stack Overflow, where I was previous to AWS, Joel Spolsky, who's super well known in programming circles, founder of Stack Overflow, led the company for 8 years, and then he realized he topped out because he wasn't able to take the company to where it eventually needed to be as we were building out the SaaS business. That's why he ended up bringing in a new CEO to replace him. So if you want to actually make that jump and start to scale, and I think that's a lot of what I see in more nascent startup ecosystems, is there's not a lot of people that know the scale type of skills that you need, whether that's scale in marketing, sales, scaling out engineering teams. You need to find some of that talent. You need to either bring it in, you need to try to home grow those skills, or you need advisors, people that have been there along the way, whether it's through investors, advisors, or other people that have been on that journey that could help you learn the things that you need to do. And the other thing I'll say is you got to make those decisions, and you got to make them fast. Making some big decisions can be scary, but very few decisions in life or in business are one-way doors, meaning that you go through a door and you can never return. 99% of decisions you make as a founder are two-way doors. You can go in and you can go right back out. And that's very much an Amazon philosophy. And that's why we can make decisions a lot faster, because you recognize that you can always go back. You can always go back and try another door. And you as a founder should also embrace that philosophy. So you make faster decisions, you learn faster, you know that you make mistakes, and you can learn from those mistakes faster, backtrack, and try again.
Except if you're changing cloud providers.
You don't want to make that. That would be a bad mistake. You should start with AWS as your cloud provider from the very start, because that's really a one-way door.
Fair enough. Okay, we have a minute or two for a couple of questions. Any from the audience? Wisdom. It's very hard to get Jojo here. We've been very lucky. Also Mark as well. He flew in from where were you before this?
I usually just live in airport lounges.
Yeah.
But I apparently have a home in the New York City area. So
came all the way from New York just to hang out with us. Awesome. Any
I'm
questions?
a Yankees fan. That's how I remember where I'm from.
Nice. All right. Go ahead. Mic for the gentleman, please. Take my mic.
Thanks. Hi. I'm working for different startups since last 10 years. So what I have seen sometimes, basically maintaining the culture, growth culture, and also the overall organizational wellness culture, is sometimes it's getting conflicted. So sometimes people want, like, I want to give my employees some weekend and other things, but due to the growth, there is no weekend, all-nighters. Also, how we actually the earliest startup can actually manage, because that when it's a team is small, you say like the work can be done a lot of things, but it's affecting the employees' wellness, right? So how actually we can, what's your suggestion on the maintaining those two?
Yeah, Jojo has all the answers actually. Oh,
let
I
me
like how I did that.
let me give you an interesting answer to that question. People are made differently. Okay, so I would not have just one template for the entire organization. So, having said that, if you go to Google, okay, one side of Google, there's Rengstorff, and then one side, the campus, are all of the engineering people. There, it's totally different. They have their beach volleyball courts, their snooze, your games and stuff, right? On one side of Google, the whole campus, across the street, you have sales and marketing, the traditional brick and mortar business of Google. Okay? Here they don't have, on this side, the engineering side, they really don't have any, I don't know, I think they don't have any discipline, but they get things done. Okay? I don't know what sort of wellness policies they have there. I know they need to feed them. You need to give them colorful walls. Have flexible hours, because their creativity will come when it comes, right? But for a salesperson, it's different. Dude, you be in the office at 7 o'clock, you stay there and sell it, and for 10 hours you have to be in front of your customer. It's a different wellness routine, and they should be used to that. I think their minds and their bodies are used to that. So, I don't know if that answers your question. But I think it depends on the function of the people inside your organization. I don't have really engineers, because we don't build products, but I've seen it. I remember when I started Plug and Play, I wanted to make it fun. First thing I did was paint the walls. This was in Sunnyvale, right? So I said, and I had, of course, we had a lot of engineer friends, and I said, what do I do in this place so that it becomes a creative place for engineers? Paint the walls, Jojo. This used to be Philips Semiconductors. It's all white, black, and gray. So paint the walls, Google colors. I remember I had these beanie stuffed toys, just displayed all around Plug and Play. So just made it fun. I even had Charlie. Okay, and I'm sure you don't know Charlie because Charlie was probably 50th or 60th employee of Google. He was a chef, and they hired him to feed the Google staff. And I think when Google went public, he probably made around $20 million. So when I started Plug and Play, I actually hired him as my consultant. What do I feed these engineers? So he kind of helped me design the cafeteria at Plug and Play and what food. I wanted to call it Charlie's Cafe. He said, no, you can't. Yeah, but this is it's different. So I wish I answered your question.
Wow. If he has an angel fund, it's called Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
Okay. We're just showing how old we are. That's not even funny, guys. Stop clapping. Well, we are definitely out of time, but these gentlemen will be around for a little bit. They have some exciting announcements to make. And if you need your AWS credits, come talk to me or Mark. And if you're looking for a global accelerator program, you have to talk to Jojo. Without further ado, round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Woo!
Thank
And the
Thank
moment you've been waiting for, right, MC? We've got some
Okay.
announcement to make.
Okay, thank you for